Hello and welcome. You're watching Good Morning India. The fuel price hike continues to remain our top focus story. Here's a quick look at the headlines. It's the 9th fuel price rise in 10 days. Petrol and diesel are up by 80 paise each. Prices have increased by over 6 rupees a litre in the last 10 days. An NDTV world exclusive. The Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba speaks to NDTV after crucial talks between Russia and Ukraine. He says there's been no significant withdrawal by Russia. Says if Prime Minister Modi is willing to play mediator, we would welcome it. His message to the Indian government is please convince Putin to stop this war. Flurry of diplomatic activity in New Delhi as top UK and Russian foreign ministers are in Delhi amid the ongoing Ukraine war. British Foreign Minister Liz Truss' visit coincides with the Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov. Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan loses majority, cancels his speech to the nation. Army and ISI chiefs meet Imran Khan. Bilawal Bhutto says Imran Khan is no longer the Prime Minister. Nawaz Sharif's brother Shehbaz Sharif is the opposition candidate. Sri Lanka's unending nightmare, long queues at petrol pumps, 10-hour-long power cuts, shortage of medicines. NDTV reports from Ground Zero in Colombo. It's the Aam Aadmi Party versus the BJP again as there's violence and vandalism outside Delhi Chief Minister's house. Aam Aadmi Party alleges the BJP wants to kill Arvind Kejriwal because they can't defeat him. The BJP says the police attacked them with water cannons. Well, our top focus story continues to remain the fuel price rise. Now, it is the 9th fuel price hike that we're reporting in the last 10 days. Petrol and diesel are up by almost ₹1, 80 paise each to be precise. Prices have increased by over 6 rupees a litre in the last 10 days in your respective cities. Those are the prices that we're tracking from Delhi and Mumbai at the moment. Price of petrol in Delhi is at 101.81 rupees a litre. Diesel in Delhi is at 93.07 rupees a litre. Take a look at the prices in Mumbai as well. Petrol prices in Mumbai now at 116.72 rupees a litre and diesel also there crossing the 100 mark. Diesel at almost 101 rupees a litre. How is this impacting the common man? Let's listen in.
अब ऐसे डेली प्राइस बढ़ेंगे तो हमारे एवरेजेस पे भी असर पड़ेगा, हमारे आने जाने पे भी असर पड़ेगा और हमारी कीमतों पे भी असर पड़ेगा, महंगाई बढ़ेगी। तो ये तो डेली बढ़ाना तो कोई ठीक नहीं है। एकदम से चुनाव जब तक थे जब तक तो ठीक था, जब तक तो रोके रखे रेट, और अभी भी रशिया से पेट्रोल तो सस्ते में ही आ रहा है इंडिया में। तो मेरे ख्याल से मुझे लगता है कि ऐसा नहीं करना चाहिए गवर्नमेंट को।
आई थिंक गवर्नमेंट ऑलरेडी एफर्ट कर रही है कि इसको कैसे नलीफाई किया जाए एंड वी बिलीव इन आवर गवर्नमेंट।
ये ऐसने में जो सर कुछ दिनों बाद जो ना गाड़ी आदमी चला ही नहीं सकता, आमदनी कम है, खर्चा ज़्यादा है, कहाँ से लेके आएंगे।
इस पर सर हम क्या कहें, ये तो सबको ही पता था कि बीजेपी दोबारा आएगी और दाम बढ़ने ही बढ़ने थे। आम लोगों पे सबसे ज़्यादा आम लोगों पे फर्क पड़ेगा क्यों जितना उनकी सैलरी नहीं उससे ज़्यादा उनको पेट्रोल का खर्चा, रोटी जाना, रोज का मैं 35-70 किलोमीटर अप डाउन करता हूँ।
Let's go right across to Himanshu joining us with the very latest. Himanshu, yet another fuel price hike that we're reporting. This, of course, has been a story that has been repeating every day. We've been speaking to common people, and it's not just the fuel budget, but it's the entire household budget that is disrupted because this, of course, has a ripple effect impacting prices all over.
That's right. If you look at it in terms of percentage, I was just looking at the data on March 22nd. The retail price of petrol in Delhi was 95 rupees 41 paisa per litre, and it has now risen by 5 rupees 60 paisa in last 10 days, and 6 rupees 40 paisa in last 10 days, which comes to little over 7%. And remember, if in 10 days the fuel prices go up by 7%, that of course will hurt the budget of Aam Aadmi, of common people. And this, of course, will have a spiraling impact now on inflation. Remember, this Ukraine war actually started at a time when India was struggling with inflation. The inflation rate was already high, around 6%. Now, in last 4 weeks, because of the continuous increase in energy prices, not only petrol and diesel, but even natural gas, LPG and other important energy sources have become expensive because of the volatility in the uncertainty in international energy oil market. This, of course, is bound to have an impact on inflation, and this will have a far more damaging impact on the Aam Aadmi's budget. Because remember, if diesel goes up by 6 rupees 40 paisa in 10 days, this is, of course, going to have a significant impact on the inflation. Now, the question that is being raised in Parliament is that if government is aware that a rise of more than 6 rupees in diesel is going to have an impact on inflation, then why government is not intervening? What should be the ceiling at which government will have to intervene actually to give some kind of relief to common people? Because you cannot allow, because this is what many opposition parties in Parliament have told us, that you cannot allow the oil companies to keep on increasing prices like this, because there has to be a ceiling, a level at which government intervenes. But at the moment there is no indication, Rishika, that government is going to intervene in this case.
Himanshu, another quick question. What are your sources telling you at the moment? Because, initially when we reported on the first 2 days of the price rise, you'd actually reported on the fact that this could in fact go up to about 12 rupees a litre, because that's the correction that the oil companies need to make in order to be able, to balance their prices. So is this something that we'll expect to see continue over the next week, 10 days as well, till that 12 rupees is reached?
That's right. That's the important question. You have raised a very, very significant question, actually. See, I was looking at the Brent crude data just now, a couple of minutes back. At the moment when I'm talking to you, the Brent crude oil index is trading at $107.19 per barrel. And this has been the level. No, of course, it is $4 less than the highest peak yesterday, but the prices have been in this range, $107, $108, $109 per barrel. And this, of course, is the price spectrum which existed when I had spoken to my sources in the oil industry at that time. And this was the price revision they had suggested, because remember, for 4.5 months, the oil companies did not change the price of oil. And through this period, from November 4th till March 22nd, this is the time band in which the prices were frozen. And this is also the time band in which the crude oil prices increased from around $80 to $110, $112. So that is around a 40% increase in crude oil price, but the petrol and diesel prices remain frozen. So there is also a financial burden that oil companies officials tell us that they have to cover up, is the loss in last 4.5 months, at the time when the crude oil prices were very high, and correspondingly the increase in petrol and diesel was not done in India. So I think there is financial pressure on the oil companies,
right,
but there is a way out. Rishika, I remember last time when government had intervened on November 4th, the excise duties were cut and we saw that the prices had fallen. That option government and the state governments have, but will they act? And we'll have to wait for that. Rishika.
Well, when the governments did intervene, Himanshu, important to note there, it was ahead of election season. Many, now jokingly tweeting about the fact that one wishes elections come back really soon in order to give the common man some much needed respite. Thanks very much for joining us this morning. We'll, of course, continue to track the details of this story very closely. Let's shift our focus now to an NDTV World exclusive interview. The Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmitry Kuleba has spoken exclusively to NDTV after the crucial talks between Russia and Ukraine. He says there's been no significant withdrawal by Russia. His message to the Indian government is clear. Please convince Putin to stop this war. He's also said that if Prime Minister Modi is willing to play the role of a mediator, we would welcome his efforts.
Mr. Kuleba, you have a fantastic ambassador over here, Igor Polika, who's been working pretty hard to try and explain to the government of India why India needs to change its position. But India has steadfastly maintained its neutrality. They've not voted against Russia in any international forum, not at the United Nations. Do you see that as being a real setback in your relations with New Delhi?
We understand that India has its own relations with Russia, and it tries to maintain that relationship under the circumstances. You mentioned the negative kind of sides of voting in the United Nations, but on the other hand, I can say that India did not vote against the Ukrainian resolution in the UN Security Council, as Russia was hoping to do. So it's true that India is trying to balance, but the message that I can send to my colleagues in the Indian government is simple. In this story, Ukraine is on the right side of history. And Ukraine has always been a reliable consumer of Indian products, mostly pharmaceutical exports from India, but also a guarantor, one of the guarantors of India's food security.
Yes.
We always supplied you with sunflower oil, with grains and other products. So this is a mutually beneficial relationship. And we have a request to the government of India to take advantage of the level of relationship that it enjoys with Russia and convince President Putin to stop this war.
Do you see Prime Minister Modi, Mr. Kuleba, being a possible mediator between you, President Zelensky, and President Putin?
Well, if Prime Minister Modi is willing to play that role, we would welcome his efforts.
And while moving on to the other big development we're tracking, it's a rush of diplomatic activity in Delhi today with the Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov in India on a two-day visit that starts today. British Foreign Minister Liz Truss will also be in Delhi today as a part of a wider diplomatic push on the Ukraine war. Her office has said that this is a trip which coincides with the Russian counterpart who's travelling to the country as well. And the visit would be, of course, the highest level visit from Moscow, a highest level visit from Britain as well in the light of the Ukraine war. Now, Lavrov's visit is interesting because it follows the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi's visit to Delhi last week, the first in over 2 years. And despite mounting pressure from the West, China and India haven't condemned, remember, Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Now, Russia's defense ministry has said on Wednesday that Moscow's troops in the Ukrainian cities of Kyiv and Chernihiv are being redeployed. Russia said that this was in order to increase military activity in priority destinations and, most importantly, complete the operation to fully liberate the Donbas region, which, remember, is considered to look at as a bit of a climb down on the previous Russian stand. Russia has explained that the first phase of the Russian operation was to make Ukraine concentrate its forces and resources in large cities, so it couldn't use those forces in Moscow's main area of operation, that is Donbas.
На Киевском и Черниговском направлениях происходит плановая перегруппировка войск. На первом этапе специальной военной операции, проводимой вооруженными силами России на территории Донбасса и Украины, планировалось заставить противника сконцентрировать свои силы, средства, ресурсы и боевую технику для удержания больших населенных пунктов на этих направлениях, включая Киев, сковать их на поле боя и без штурма этих городов во избежание потерь среди гражданского населения, нанести вооруженным формированием киевского режима такое поражение, которое не позволило бы ему использовать эти силы на главном направлении действий наших вооруженных сил на Донбассе. Все эти цели были выполнены.
An advisor to Ukraine president said on Wednesday that the final draft of a ceasefire agreement with Russia could be ready within a couple of days. Mikhailo Podolyak said the draft agreement in the Ukrainian side has been handed over to Russian delegates and there is a possibility for Moscow to end the war in safe phase. He added that with Russian amendments to the draft, the signing of the preliminary agreement could lead to a meeting between the two countries' presidents.
Ми вважаємо, що двосторонній договір з Росією, він такий буде не дуже гарантований з точки зору того, що Росія може завжди порушити двосторонні домовленості, але в багатосторонньому договорі, де Росія візьме на себе зобов'язання, в тому числі перед іншими країнами-гарантами, ми вважаємо, що це можливість і російській стороні вийти з війни з якимось там обличчям, скажімо так. І тому я думаю, що їх, в принципі, влаштовує договір, тому що іншої формули бути не може.
Now, the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has said that Western nations shouldn't lift sanctions on Russia until all Moscow's troops have left Ukraine. Johnson said that a ceasefire would not be enough and that the G7 should in fact go ahead and intensify sanctions with a rolling program until every single one of Putin's troops is out of Ukraine.
Certainly looking at going up a gear now in our support for the Ukrainians as they defend themselves. I certainly don't think that you could expect the G7 to lift sanctions simply because there's been a ceasefire in Ukraine. And that, again, goes straight into Putin's playbook. In my view, we should continue to intensify sanctions with a rolling program until every single one of his troops is out of Ukraine.
Now, the US President Joe Biden has sent his top advisor and key person leading the administration's economic sanctions on Russia to India. The Deputy National Security Advisor for International Economics, Dalip Singh, an Indian American, arrived in New Delhi on a two-day visit yesterday. Now, he's also met with, Union Minister Piyush Goyal. Piyush Goyal, in fact, tweeted to say that he's met with the US Deputy National Security Advisor and discussed at length steps for further deepening India-US economic and strategic ties. He's also gone on to talk about a complementary partnership that's going to help build resilient economies in a dynamic world order. This is a crucial visit, remember, that's coming in at a time when India has refused to toe America's line against Russia and maintained its own diplomatic stand. Well, on to the other big development we're tracking. The Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan cancelled his planned address to the nation on Wednesday ahead of a no-trust vote. The announcement that he has cancelled the speech came after Pakistani army and the head of the ISI met with Imran Khan. His future looked increasingly in doubt after a key coalition partner, MQMP, switched allegiance ahead of the parliamentary no-confidence vote this weekend. Pakistan's joint opposition now has 177 members of the National Assembly. The majority mark is at 172. Imran Khan has 164 members, which is below the majority mark. The opposition parties on Wednesday held a press conference in which the PPP chairman, Bilawal Bhutto, said that Imran Khan is no longer the Prime Minister and Nawaz Sharif's brother, Shehbaz Sharif, is the opposition candidate.
वज़ीर आज़म साहब का अक्सरियत मुकम्मल तौर पे ख़त्म हो चुका है। शहबाज शरीफ साहब ने बड़ा सही और स्टेटमेंट स्पिरिट में चैलेंज दिया है वज़ीर आज़म साहब को कि वो इस्तीफ़ा दे। हम समझते हैं कि वज़ीर आज़म साहब ने इस वक्त तक, इस मौके तक इस किस्म की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी नहीं दिखाई हैं, मगर वज़ीर आज़म साहब के पास कोई ऑप्शन नहीं रहा, वो वज़ीर आज़म नहीं रहा।
दरअसल 22 करोड़ आवाम का मुकदमा है जो आज ये मुतहदा अपोजिशन और उनके साथ जिस तरह बाप के खालिद मक्की साहब और आज MQM ने ऐलान किया है, इसके बाद मैं समझता हूँ कि जमहूर का तरीका ये है और एक रवायात ये हैं कि फिर प्राइम मिनिस्टर चाहे वो सिलेक्टेड क्यों ना हो, उनको चाहिए कि जब वो अदबी कुव्वत खो बैठे हैं पार्लियामान में, आज वो इस्तीफ़ा देकर एक नई रीत कायम करें और रवायत कायम करें।
And well, with that, we're slipping into a short break. Coming up on the other side, it's Aam Aadmi Party versus BJP. Again, violence and vandalism outside the Delhi Chief Minister's residence yesterday, with the AAP alleging that the BJP wants to kill Kejriwal. There were dramatic scenes yesterday at the Delhi Chief Minister's residence, with BJP workers clashing with the police outside Arvind Kejriwal's home during a protest against Arvind Kejriwal's remarks in the recently released controversial movie The Kashmir Files. Senior Aam Aadmi Party leader Manish Sisodia made sensational claims after the protest, alleging that the BJP wanted to kill Arvind Kejriwal because they couldn't defeat him in polls. The BJP said that the police attacked them with water cannons, while the Aam Aadmi Party accused the police of just standing by. And while the other big development we're tracking, it's the 9th fuel price hike in the last 10 days. Prices are up by over 6 rupees a litre for petrol and diesel in the last 10 days. The price of petrol in Delhi is at 101.81 rupees a litre. Diesel in Delhi is at 93.07 rupees a litre. Meanwhile, in Mumbai, it's even more expensive, with petrol at 116.72 rupees a litre and diesel crossing the 100 rupee mark, in fact touching 101 rupees a litre. Now, an interesting development. Yoga guru Ramdev was seen on camera losing his cool and threatening a journalist who asked him about his comments in the past on reducing petrol price. During an event in Karnal in Haryana, the journalist asked the Patanjali brand ambassador about his comment to the media that people should consider a government that can ensure petrol for 40 rupees a litre, cooking gas for 30 rupees a litre. Now remember, this is something that the yoga guru had said in the past, but when he was asked for his comments on the fuel price rise, this is what he did.
अब लोग थोड़ी ज्यादा मेहनत करें और महंगाई के बीच में भी अब सरकार कहती है हम हमारा तेल का दाम कम होगा तो फिर टैक्स नहीं मिलेगा तो देश कैसे चलाएंगे, सेना को कैसे तनख्वाह देंगे, सड़क कैसे बनाएंगे, एयरपोर्ट कैसे बनाएंगे। तो दोनों ही पक्ष हैं। महंगाई कम होनी चाहिए, महंगाई भी ज्यादा भी है, तो मेहनत ज्यादा करो। भाई मैं भी सुबह सन्यासी होके 4 बजे से लेकर 10 बजे तक काम करता हूँ, मेरे कौन सी छोरे भूखे मर रहे हैं। ऐसे लोग कमाई।
बाबा जी, आपने तो टीवी चैनल पर यह कहा था कि कौन सी सरकार आपको चाहिए, 40 रुपए पेट्रोल वाली सरकार, 300 रुपए सिलेंडर वाली सरकार। बाबा जी अच्छे भी का कुछ आप ही ने कहा था सरकार बनी थी, आपने कहा था कि नहीं कहा था? बाबा जी
मैंने कहा था, पूछ पड़ेगा मेरी।
बाबा जी आपकी कंपनी पतंजलि, बाबा जी आपकी कंपनी पतंजलि
ऐसे जाता है ना आदमी को ना,
आप ही ने कहा था।
अरे आदमी को मैं कह रहा भाई ऐसे प्रश्न मत पूछो बाबा जी, मैं तेरे प्रश्नों का उत्तर देने के लिए कोई ठेकेदार है कि तो जो भी पूछा मैं उसका उत्तर दूं। जब एक बात कह दी, थोड़ा सभ्य बनना भी सीखो। आप ये बताओ, एक मिनट,
सभी टीवी चैनल पर आप ही की बाइट चली थी और लोगों ने विश्वास किया।
मैंने दी थी और अब नहीं देता, कर ले क्या करेगा? चुप हो जा, अब आगे से पूछेगा तो ठीक नहीं।
स्वामी जी,
बाबा जी
बोल दिया ना।
स्वामी जी, बाबा जी
आपकी कश्मीर फाइल फिल्म बनी है, काफी
इतना ज्यादा उद्दंडता नहीं करनी चाहिए। तू किसी सभ्य माँ बाप की औलाद
जो कहा हम वही पूछ रहे हैं।
All right, well, Ramdev there losing his cool, threatening the journalist that if you ask me questions about the fuel price rise again, it won't be good for you. With that, we're going to slip into a short break. But coming up on the other side, NDTV gets you ground reports amid the worst economic crisis in Sri Lanka. We'll bring you the details.
Right outside the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation, one of the largest fuel suppliers for Sri Lanka and also for Colombo. And what we see right here, we can show you visuals that there's huge long serpentine queues that's been made right outside this particular fuel station. And yes, of course, what's also important to note over here is in fact Sri Lanka, that's been in deep economic crisis, has been seeing a steady increase in terms of the fuel pricing. For example, for today's going rate, if you're looking at petrol, the petrol's going rate, what we're looking at is nearly 254 rupees. And when we spoke to the people right here, what they also tell us is that in fact it was at least about 137 per litre. And this is just about a month ago, which means an increase of nearly 117 rupees just in a matter of 1 month. So we are also looking at where the price of petrol has been increased twice in just as many as 2 or 3 weeks right now. So definitely is burning a huge hole in the pockets of people. Let me go across to the common man who's feeling as far as this particular economic crisis concerned. So joining us right now is in fact an auto driver. Your good name?
I'm Nimal.
Okay. For how long have you been driving the auto?
In after 4 years now in Colombo.
It's been 4 years. Okay. Have you any time, plunged into an economic crisis like this, as bad as this, before?
Pardon?
Something as bad as this that's happening right now, has it ever happened to you before?
Yes. Before very good, but too much problem in now because petrol are going up. Before 2 months, once 77, it means 177 for 1 litre. Now it will go up. Now 254 rupees. That's very expensive.
Okay. We also see that the tourism sector has not really picked up very well. But how exactly are you managing? How are you ensuring you're getting through the day? Because earlier you could do so, you could manage. But now how are you managing your expenses, daily expenses?
That is very difficult. Because before we can earn maybe 5,000, 3,400, 4,000 rupees. But same figures earn in the today also, but very expensive. Petrol going up and our family expense and other things very going up. So very difficult living in Sri Lanka.
NDTV reporting from Colombo, right outside the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. What we see right here is over 20 organizations which includes working professionals, lawyers and also Sinhala organizations. They have all come together protesting right outside the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, demanding the resignation of the governor and also the finance minister. Now all that they have been saying right now is it's been several weeks that the government has been reassuring them several times despite the kind of distress the common man has been facing. Not really any of the help has reach them. So if we could go across to the people over here who are joining us on NDTV. What I did see here is y'all were entering the gates of Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Did y'all try to speak to the officials? What did they tell you?
We demanded the resignation of the governor of Central Bank because he got so many allegations against him. All of them are corrupt allegations. So we demanded the resignation because he's not running the central bank independently. He's running according to the family instructions. The family is the most corrupt family in the history of Sri Lanka, which is the Rajapaksa family. So we're demanding the finance minister's resignation as well. The finance minister is 100% American. He's not a Sri Lankan. I don't know how he managed to get the position of a finance minister because he's not a Sri Lankan. So they changed the legislation in the parliament so that their brothers can join the family of thieves to rob the country. Now the country has no foreign reserves. They sold the gold in the country. They have robbed the country left, right and center. Now we are really the begging bowl of the world. We are so embarrassed that we have to go and ask for 100 million from this country, 100 million from that country. Right. We are so embarrassed. We are a proud nation with so much resources and we are the begging bowl of the world, all because of the Rajapaksa family looting the people, looting the country, looting the central bank.
I'm an IT person, IT entrepreneur, but we have nothing to do because we have our own projects, spending various amount of money and time, no electricity, no equipment to buy, no repair, because they are doing nothing, but we have to spend our lives on the road. I am one of the voters of this corrupted government. Now we have no hope, nothing. Why we voted? Why we vote our young vote? Because of we have our future. We saw our future, but nothing for us.
Outside Sri Lanka's crisis-hit central bank, protesters strain at the barricades. The army tries to hold the line. Finally, they are let in. Their target, the Rajapaksa family, which currently rules Sri Lanka.
We are the begging bowl of the world, all because of the Rajapaksa family looting the people, looting the country, looting the central bank.
In another part of the city, kilometer-long queues snake towards petrol and diesel stations. Fuel, like food and medicines, in short supply. Nimal owns an auto, says he had to take a second job to keep up with the soaring fuel prices, which have shot up by 30% since the last 2 weeks.
Before 3 months, my family, my house, 2,000 rupees per a day before. Now it will going up 3,500 rupees, more 1,500 rupees.
This man owns a tour and travels company.
After this crisis, our vehicle price gone up, fuel price gone up, spare parts price gone up, tire price gone up. So we have to control everything anyhow.
It is a very, very, difficult situation because we just had a very young person telling us that, he's an IT person. Where does he have to go? They have all come to the streets. And just like his story, there are many others across, not just across Colombo, but also across Sri Lanka as well. In Colombo, with camera person Govind Murthy, Srija for NDTV.
All right, well, let's now get you the other big story. We're tracking local workers from Kashmir are shaping up India's longest tunnel through Zorjila Pass. The Hyderabad-based company that's building this tunnel says that it's the expertise of local laborers and engineers that's helping them achieve their target ahead of schedule.
It's men like Baba Latif from Kashmir's Bandipora, seen here operating a hydraulic drill that form the backbone of the ambitious Zorjila tunnel. The project may be executed by a Hyderabad-based firm, Mega Engineering Infrastructure Limited. But 900 out of 1,000 men working in the 13-kilometer tunnel are from Jammu and Kashmir.
ऐसा मेहनत करके मेहनत से ही जो है हम लोग सीख पाते हैं।
और ये मशीन इतनी बड़ी हाइड्रोलिक रिग कोई मुश्किल तो
नहीं है सर, बिल्कुल आसान है हमारे लिए, बिल्कुल आसान, कोई मुश्किल नहीं है सर।
लेकिन जब टनल के बीच में आप उसको काटते हैं तो उसका डर तो नहीं लग रहा?
नहीं सर, ऐसा नहीं है, कोई डर नहीं है सर।
It is the local workforce who shape an engineering marvel. They have worked at multiple major projects and have got skills how to work at a major project like this. 90% workforce comes from Jammu and Kashmir, and also 60% engineers are locals as well.
Men like Sartaj from Anantnag, who are installing the piping systems in the tunnel, say that they have worked on several such projects before, the outcome of the last 20 years of a construction boom of major projects in railways, road and power in Jammu and Kashmir.
हम टनलिंग में सर एक्सपोर्ट है सर, पाइपलाइन का जो मोटर्स का वगैरह कैंप का भी है सर। जी सर। तो कितने प्रोजेक्टों में काम किया अभी? मेरा सर चौथा सर प्रोजेक्ट है सर।
More than half of the 200 engineers are also locals. Mirajuddin, a geological expert, speaks of the challenges.
We will encounter 3 formations. One is now in which we are presently, it is Zorjila formation. After that it is Panjal volcanics, and after that it is agglomeratic slates. So, but Zorjila formation, it will be challenging.
As the project races around the clock to beat its deadline, project managers praise the role of locals.
I'm totally banking upon them. They are producing so much for me. Sometimes they surpass my expectations also. If I think today maximum 6 meter tunneling is possible, next morning they said, sir, we have done 7 meters. It's these local workers who did not let the pace drop, even during Kashmir's harsh winters, which may ensure the completion of India's longest tunnel ahead of schedule. With Nazir Masoodi in Zorjila, Bureau Report, NDTV.
Welcome back. Congress MPs are protesting against the fuel hike in the national capital and across the country. It's the 10th day since the fuel has been rising, the steepest spike that we're seeing as far as fuel prices are concerned of both petrol and diesel. You can see the MPs on the streets of Delhi protesting against the rise by the government for the 10th consecutive day.
Ready. Bhai, camera पीछे यार. Sir, camera हटा यार. Sir. बैठ जाओ. Start sir. नमस्कार. अब ये कौन शांत हो जाओ. Good morning. Silence. आज यहाँ
हमारे कांग्रेस पार्टी के एमपीज और देश में हर स्टेट में, हर कैपिटल में, डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स और ब्लॉक्स में कांग्रेस पार्टी जो प्राइस राइज है और खासतौर से जो पेट्रोल और डीजल की प्राइस राइज है उस पर एजिटेशन कर रही है। पिछले 10 दिन में 9 बार पेट्रोल और डीजल के प्राइसेस बढ़ाए गए हैं और इसकी चोट डायरेक्टली सबसे गरीब मिडिल क्लास लोगों को पड़ती है। हमारी मांग है कि ये जो प्राइसेस बढ़ती जा रही हैं, महंगाई बढ़ती जा रही है और जो पेट्रोल और डीजल के दाम बढ़ते जा रहे हैं, इनको सरकार कंट्रोल करे और पेट्रोल और डीजल के दाम बढ़ाना बंद करे। तो इसलिए हम सब यहाँ आए हैं। पूरे देश में हमारा प्रोटेस्ट चलेगा, काफी दिनों के लिए चलेगा। तो ये हमारा मैसेज है।
सर, जिस तरह विधानसभा चुनाव
in English, we can see that petrol and diesel prices are climbing rapidly. Government is making thousands and thousands of crores from this. Over the last 10 days, 9 times they have been raised. Congress party is protesting across the country in districts, blocks, state capitals, here with our MPs against this price rise, against the rise of petrol and diesel prices. Government has to stop doing this. This is hurting the poorest people in the country and it's hurting the middle class. Government has to ensure that prices do not rise and they stop raising diesel and petrol prices. Thank you.
सर, एक सवाल ये है कि आपकी सरकार में 410 रुपए का सिलेंडर मिलता था, मौजूदा वक्त में 1050 का सिलेंडर मिल रहा है। मोदी सरकार ने चुनाव के वक्त में तो नहीं बढ़ाया, आखिर किस तरीके से इन लोगों की मंशा है?
नहीं, देखिए, वो तो सब लोग जानते हैं। गैस सिलेंडर की प्राइस डबल हो गई है। 102 रुपए है पेट्रोल का दाम आज दिल्ली में। ये तो हिस्ट्री में कभी नहीं हुआ है इस लेवल की प्राइसेस। और सरकार का बड़ी सिंपल सोच है कि जितना भी पैसा गरीबों से निकाला जा सकता है उसको निकालो और 2, 3, 4 बड़े उद्योगपतियों के हाथ कर दो। तो यही बेसिकली प्रोसेस यही चल रहा है। फायदा किसको हो रहा है? फायदा जो सबसे बड़े अरबपति हैं 2-3 उनको हो रहा है और नुकसान किसका है? नुकसान गरीबों का है, मिडिल क्लास का है और जो आम जनता है उनका है। ऑब्वियसली चुनाव से पहले ये नहीं कर सकते। मैंने उस टाइम भी कहा था कि चुनाव के समय मैंने कहा था, देश की जनता से कहा था, पेट्रोल डीजल भर लो, अभी भर लो, क्योंकि बाद में मुसीबत आई। I'll take there's a debate in Parliament on Monday. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Well, Rahul Gandhi there protesting with the Congress MPs in the national capital. Like he mentioned, they will be protesting for days on ends, demanding the price of fuel, whether it's petrol or diesel, be reduced across the country. Like he mentioned, the 9th fuel price hike in the last 10 days. This is after a 4-month hiatus that the prices of petrol and diesel are rising across the country. When we talk about Delhi, the price is coming in at 101 rupee and 81 paise per litre of petrol and 93 rupees and 7 paise per litre of diesel. As far as Mumbai is concerned, the petrol and diesel prices are coming in at 116 rupees and 72 paise for petrol, 100 rupees and 94 paise for a litre of diesel in the financial capital.